Idlewild is a community that was established in 1912 by two abolitionists, the Branch brothers out of White Cloud, Michigan. And they were sympathetic to the needs of African Americans who were moving from the South to the North. And even though the North was so-called integrated, it wasn't, because when it came to fishing, hunting, and having the opportunity to have fresh lakes to take their kids to, they didn't have that. So these gentlemen found an area, which turned out to be Idlewild, but it was on a lake called Crooked Lake at that time, and they bought that land, and then they, in turn, hired two African Americans out of Chicago to do the sales.
This is Jones's Ice Cream Parlor. For thousands of African Americans over the years, it has been a beacon, signaling them that Idlewild was not far away.
And they went around to different cities and formed this place called Idlewild. They sold lots to people in Chicago, Detroit, Indianapolis, Milwaukee, St. Louis, and then those people formed associations.
A tradition that has lasted to this day. Lots were 25 by 100 feet and sold for $35 each, with $6 down and $1 per week. Among the notables who helped settle Idlewild at this time were Dr. Daniel Hell Williams, who performed the first open heart surgery in Chicago in 1893. Dr. Williams's prominence brought other well-known African-American entrepreneurs to Idlewild, such as the first African-American female millionaire, Madam C.J. Walker, who bought her land from Dr. Williams.
Well, again, if you take it into categories like you brought up, well, we had lawyers and doctors from all over the Midwest, Chicago, Detroit, and then we had stars like Joe Louis, Meadowlark Lemon. I remember seeing him walking along the beach because he was so tall, you know. And then we had other people that in the entertainment industry, you name it, Count Basie, Duke Ellington, Sammy Davis Jr., when he was tap dancing with his dad and his uncle were there, and Aretha Franklin. The house band, I used to sit next to them on the beach all the time, was the Four Tops at the Paradise Club.
As a filmmaker, what inspired you to make this documentary?
Well, originally it wasn't. It was done on the bet that I had with a lady when I was publishing the magazine. I had Old Kent Bank as an account, and the lady that I worked with there, who happened to be white, we were at lunch one day, and she knew of Idlewild, and we started talking about it, and she saw the enthusiasm I had for it, and she said, geez, you ought to do a documentary on it. And I said, well, I don't have time, and plus I don't have any money. And so 2 weeks later, I get a call from her. She says, I found you some money. And that's how I started. I started with $5,000 in 3 months, thinking I'd have it done, but 3 years later and $250,000 later, I finally got it done.
In the 1940s, Idlewild came of age. The anticipation of World War II brought more good-paying jobs to African Americans, and the migration north became an avalanche. Thus, the emerging African American middle class needed an outlet, and Idlewild was just the place.
So when somebody tells you about that, especially in the African American community, tells you about something like that existed, it kind of piques your interest, and you say, well, geez, I'd like to find out more about that. And again, it's something that Mama Helen says in the movie is stranger than fiction, because in the overall scheme of things, the way they are today as compared to where they were then, it was stranger than fiction, because people can't believe that a race of people came together from all over because of segregation and created this wonderful environment for people to come to every summer.
Immigration, the Civil Rights Act of '64, killed all black business.
Well, again, that was an interesting aspect of it from the standpoint of putting all of the footage and everything together and realizing that what had destroyed a wonderful thing was something that was supposed to be good, integration. And I guess for people that needed to be around white people to educate themselves or to break down barriers so that we could spend our money at lunch counters and buy clothes at Macy's, that was a good thing. But as far as Idlewild and the socialization process that took place before the Civil Rights Act was passed, that socialization process turned into a migration away from Idlewild, because black people had the opportunity to say, hey, you know what, I can go to Vegas now, I can go to the Bahamas, I can go to Miami Beach, whereas before it was off limits to me. So it was adventurous from one standpoint. And on the other hand, there's a gentleman named Mr. Meeks, who's very prominent up there. He had an idea in terms of what else happened, was the fact that the accommodations were not as good.